Matt and I are sitting out in the garden this morning trying to rest a little bit before we start doing something. We're going to try to not do too much today because Matt's wore out from working on the heating and air, and then the Corey and Austin's well tearing up right in the middle of it, and he had to pull the pump and do all that, so he's awful tired. I want him to be able to rest. But we desperately need to put up our tomatoes, need to make them start weaving their way up through the cattle panels. So I think that's all we're going to do.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. Matt needs to go in and put his feet up and rest. And the heating and air's not done yet, but you're going to have a day off or 2 days off from that while Daniel's got some stuff he's got to do.
Yeah.
You got the worst of it done, though, you think?
Well, we thought we had until we discovered we're going to have to do something a little different on getting it wired. So that's going to be kind of mean, but maybe it won't be as bad as what we've already done, I hope.
Yeah, you've got a lot. I mean, you've worked a lot. Been working till 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah,
So,
pretty big job.
Yeah. It'll be so nice, though, once they get it completed for Corey and Austin.
Yeah.
Then they can get soft like us.
Yeah.
They were already soft, though. They were already used to having it at their other house. So anyway, we're going to try to get the tomatoes. They're all doing good, and I've even seen a few tomatoes here and there, haven't you? Mm-hmm. Some blooms and all looking good. And I know us putting them up, attaching them to where they can stand up and grow will really help. This first one Matt's starting with, it had laid over till it was about to grow back into the ground. Matt's saying we should have already had it done, but that just shows how good they're growing. These look great. This is our Tommy toe bed of tomatoes. You can see they're pretty high, about waist high on me, some of them. This plant is one of the ones that's already starting to set fruit. You can see there's about 4 tomatoes on it and some blooms too. This is the little tomato that I broke when we were actually planting them. You can see the dead part there, but it is starting to come back out, so maybe it's going to come back out from the bottom. I was hoping that it would do that because it was definitely alive until I broke the top. You can also see right beside it, here's some little volunteer tomatoes coming up from last year. This is the little clip that we're using. Snaps together. You can unsnap it if you need to adjust or anything like that. You can find them at garden supply places, on Amazon, different places. A lot of people just use something really soft and stretchy. That works really well too. Before we started using these, we just used twine. And that worked good too, but these are just so much easier because they just clip. And you can reuse them if they, sometimes some of them will break, 1 or 2 of them, but if you take them off the cattle panels at the end of the year and put them up, sometimes you can reuse them for at least a year or 2 until the sunshine will eventually make them brittle. But they work really good for us. This is Matt's bed of wonderful Cherokee purple, and you can see how good they're doing. This one's about chest high on me. Some of them are smaller than that. Some of them are finding their way up through the cattle panel and kind of doing their own thing. Another thing that we'll do after we get them all attached is we'll come back and trim some of the leaves. Now, some people do that and some people don't do that. You just have to figure out what works best for you. We do it for a couple of reasons. We do think that maybe it helps the plant put all of its resources into making fruit if you get rid of some of these bottom ones. And also, we have such high humidity here that it helps with airflow. So to get rid of some of these, like these bottom ones, it really helps with the airflow and keeps disease, thinking about blight and things like that, at bay. This is a good example of one that we would remove. I always think of them, these that come down like this, as arms. They look like arms hanging down. There is a correct name for them, but that is not a leaf or a limb of the tomato that would produce tomatoes. There'll be no blooms on it. Another reason some people that really have to fight pests in their tomatoes, they would remove them, is then it makes it easier if you're looking for the tomato worms and things like that are eating your plants. If they just turn into a jungle, those things are harder to see. Another thing we need to work on is winding our cucumbers plants up into the cattle panels. They're just vining out everywhere, and exciting to see some blooms, which means we'll have cucumbers before we know it. Our grapes are looking fantastic this year. I don't know with the variety of this grape. One of Miss Cindy's friends shared it with us many years ago, probably 15 years ago or something. But it does good for us, and it looks like this year is going to be a really great year for grapes. I hope these little teeny tiny grapes you can see there, I hope they grow and do as good as the others. This is a Scuppernong grape that we only planted, I think it's been here 2 years, so I'm really excited about those, and I hope they get larger so that we can eat them. Come down to the lower part of the garden to work on the tomatoes down here. I see one tomato right there, Matt, a little bitty one. That's probably a tomato. Matt said these tomatoes look pitiful compared to the ones up at the top, and he's right. The ground right here is just poor. In all the years that we have gardened, this is like the newest part of our garden, if that makes sense. So the part that's on down towards the driveway, that's where we garden the most, and that's where we've enriched the soil the most. Up here, you can see by the plants that they're just not doing as good as those others. Even though we do add compost and stuff, it's just not as good of soil as the part that we had enriched for years and years and years. But we brought I found some blood meal that I had, so we're going to put some blood meal around them, see if that helps them. They are all growing. They just look kind of skinny and not lush like the ones up at the top part of the garden. My little row of zinnias behind them looks really good. It's growing. Hey, and I see some of my sunflowers up, Matt. Ain't that great? I also see the first little, is that a phlox blooming over there? Maybe the first phlox of the year. But hopefully the bloodroot will help. And these are really, they're kind of all standing straight up, aren't they? So I'm not sure if we'll go ahead and clip, I guess, the main stem, and that way if they do suddenly decide to grow vigorously, they'll have something to already be holding on to. This is wild phlox. It grows all through my gardens. I just love it. It has a wonderful smell. This is the first one I've seen blooming this year. You can see how lovely it is. And when it's all blooming at the same time, it is an amazing sight. Here's two of the big sunflowers Matt and I planted about a week ago. I'm glad to see them up and growing. Another the first little bean bloom. This is from the rattlesnake beans. It's got a pretty little pink bloom. And this is the first one I've noticed this year. Well, that didn't take too long. Now that's done. Quit looking at the tomatoes, especially the Cherokee purples that were laying down, and worrying about them. I guess some of the tomatoes were laying down too. Of course, we could have done like Papa's family and just let them grow along the ground.
That'd drive me insane. I couldn't do that.
No, and as many turtles as we have, that would not work. We wouldn't get any tomatoes.
No, we wouldn't. They'd eat every one of them. Or they'd eat 2 bites.
Yeah, they'd eat 2 bites. If they just eat it all, you could kind of say, well, I was feeding the turtles, but they just eat a bite and then they go on.
Just enough to keep you from eating any of it.
Yeah. Terrapins. That's really the only thing, I mean, it can always change, but in all the years we've grew tomatoes, that's really the only thing we fight is the terrapins. We don't really have the hornworm, is that what they're called? Tomato worms, hornworms that people deal with.
I don't know, but there's a fine stand of gnats right here.
Yeah, I know, they're everywhere. Anyway, we fight turtles, is what it is, so keeping them off the ground is really important. Even then, sometimes one that's down low, like Matt said, they just take 1 bite and then they're done. They do that to our watermelons and melons too. Same thing. I'm really pleased with how the tomatoes look up here, though. They always do. Me and Matt always manage to grow tomatoes.
Yeah.
Most every year. Some years are off, like last year for our squash and zucchini, but we don't have a bad, terrible year for tomatoes.
Never have had, I don't reckon, have we?
I hope we don't start now that I've said that.
That must mean they're easy to grow.
Jinxed myself. Jinxed us.
Yeah.
What do you say when you're young? Jinx and you owe me a Coke or something?
Yeah, I never did understand that one.
I don't either. We didn't never get the Coke, but we said it. And in our area, we say Coke for everything. So we could say, do you want a Coke? And then we'd have to say, I've got Sprite and Mountain Dew and whatever, Dr. Pepper. But Coke is the term that they all fall under. Anyway, yeah, they look really good, our tomatoes do. The ones up here, they look really lush and full and beautiful. Especially Matt's Cherokee Purples. You think that's because you helped plant them? And I mean, the seeds and the planting, you was in charge?
Of course.
Yeah, of course. I even seen one that had a tomato about that big on it over there. So Matt'll be watching it and with bated breath and counting his days to his first tomato sandwich.
Better hide, it may get eat.
Pretty much in tomato season, Matt eats a tomato sandwich every day, sometimes more than once a day.
I have eaten them for breakfast early in the morning. They're just so good and they don't last long, so I just eat them as hard as I can go.
I like tomatoes. I like tomatoes, but I like tomato sandwiches, is what I was going to say, but I don't like them like Matt does.
I love them. If we're good tomatoes, homegrown tomatoes, I don't make them out of store-bought tomatoes because they're no good.
Now somebody was telling me, it may have been in a comment here, so if it was you, thank you, said I don't remember if it was their father, their uncle, somebody in their family liked them so much, liked tomato sandwiches so much, that in the winter he would take the homegrown tomatoes and like drain the tomato juice and then pat them dry and then make him a sandwich with that. He just loved them.
Yeah.
So Matt hadn't done that, even though we do canned tomatoes.
I have to try that.
Yeah, you might have
remember
to.
that comment.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'd be good.
Yeah, because you'd have your homegrown ones. It wouldn't be the store-bought ones that just don't have much flavor most of the time, especially in the winter. So Matt usually really celebrates that first sandwich.
Oh, yeah. Hopefully we'll be celebrating that ear of corn here for long.
Now that would be a meal if you had some fresh tomatoes and some fresh corn and some cucumbers, some fried squash and cornbread. That would be delicious. The fresh garden stuff is the best eating of the year if you ask me.
Oh, yeah.
Well, what you got on your agenda for the rest of the day?
Not nothing.
It's going to rest up. You hope nobody calls and says something tore up and you need to come.
I'm going to turn my phone off and I'm going to get a straddle of an air conditioning vent and I'm just going to sit there. I think that's what I'm going to do.
I don't blame you. You've worked so hard for the last 2 weeks.
I don't believe I've ever been any more tired than this.
Well, go in and stretch back in your recliner and put gun smoke on and I'll fan you and then feed you stuff.
Yeah, it'll work.
Sounds pretty good to you.
Yeah, I'm liking that.
We're always glad when you stop by to help us celebrate Appalachia, which is a whole lot about making a garden for sure. I've seen some cucumber blooms too.
I meant the squash blooms down there a week ago and then to go look and see if they've made
I
anything.
looked, they've not. It's like those funny squash blooms sometimes you get that they just...
They fall off.
Yeah, and there's nothing behind them.
That's aggravating.
Yeah, but I looked. Did you see what I done yesterday? Looks better.
It looks a lot better.
I planted lots of seeds in there. If they all come up, it'll be beautiful. But I need to keep it wet. That's why I wanted that hose too. And then I moved the tomatoes and strawberries. Moved the strawberries. I think they'll do way better in that if they all live. I just cut them back to hopefully new growth would come out, But I left the strawberries in those grow bags over there.
Do you want that new hose drug up here or the one that's down there now?
I don't care.
I just had to have one down yonder.
I know. I just wanted that other one back, and I thought we could put, like we had it last year, one up here and one down there, so then you don't have to fight it, getting it back and forth. Yeah. Eventually, someday, you'll have time to put a hydrant up here.
Yeah, you'd think.
Oh, well, you will. We'll get there.
I'm worried about how I'm going to get the ditch from there to there.
Well, don't worry about it now, because end of time might happen, and who'd care?
It's true.
Until you're ready to do it, then worry about it. But yeah, if we had that hose up here, then I could water those. The honeybees are just going crazy over Katie's poppies. That's the most honeybees I've seen in a long time. They were just going crazy over them. Feels pretty good just to sit right here. You're probably already too hot.
No, I'm burning up.
Those peppers over there have blooms in them, on them. And Betty told me what they were, because I said I couldn't remember. Something horn. I saved it. I'll have to go back and look. Something horn. Pepper said we'd really like them.
Have given to you?
I mean, I got them at Satterfield, but then I couldn't remember the name of them that day we planted them, and I said that in the video, and then Betty replied and commented and told me what they were. But now I forgot again. I did save it, though, on my phone or somewhere, so I would know. Something horn. But she said they was really good.
Are they hot?
No, they're sweet. But we have hot peppers that we've never planted. I'd forgot about that until yesterday. I was over there working, and I saw, what's these cups here for? Oh, those are peppers and tomatoes that we never planted. There's like 2 tomatoes and then 4 jalapenos that we were going to put in one of these beds, and then we've never got the beds done, so we just kind of forgot about them.
I seen the video yesterday. A fella caught some catfish fresh, filleted them right there on the bank, cooked them, and then he had a little cup that had some ground, I reckon he must have grown them ground hot pepper flakes, or just ground up hot peppers, and he added that fish oil back to, that he cooked the fish in, added it back to the hot pepper and stirred it up, and then brushed him fish with it. It was hot fish oil, it was called, and I never even heard of that, but that looked real good, and he turned it over and done the other side and then made sandwiches out of them. I bet that, sitting right there on the riverbank, I bet that's good.
Yeah,
of course, you probably wouldn't like the hot part. But
no, I don't like hot, but that does sound interesting. I'd sure like the fish on the riverbank, though.
Gosh, yeah. I mean, just fresh as you can get it, and just filleted them and cooked them and made sandwiches right there on the river.
That sounds delicious.
Gosh, yeah, it does.
I'd like to have a big bait of fish.
I would too. We got some frozen
I
there.
know.
Need to be eating it.
I know.
Hop to it.
I could. I was thinking deer meat for supper.
Oh, that'll work. That's probably easier.
Yeah.
What kind of deer meat?
I was thinking just a jar of deer meat. Maybe some rice. Something. I don't know what to go with it. Maybe biscuits. Something. I have to go think about it. Some corn or something.
That all sounds good. I need an IV infusion of some B12 or something.
I got B12 in there. You can take some.
I probably ought to have some. I'm depleted.
Yeah, go get in your chair.
There's probably somebody in it.
Maybe not. If they are, run them out. Tell them
I ain't
to
got
get
the
out.
heart to do that.
You had a hammock out here, or you could sleep out here. The banks would be on you.
It's too hot. Yeah, he'd jump up and smack you in the face and run off.
Yeah, hunt you.
Yeah.
He was here a minute ago. I don't know where he went.
Yeah, too.
All right, let's go.